Alright, Maras, today we're ranking Premier League stadiums. The other day I ranked every home atmosphere in the Premier League, and today we're ranking the buildings that hold them atmospheres. This is one that is so subjective. You could try and claim that Bournemouth is the best stadium in the Premier League. You'd be wrong. I do think you'd be wrong, but you have every right to claim it. It is purely a subjective list, so I think you're going to disagree with a lot of this, but like I said, it's all personal preference, but I do try and give me reason for every single one. So let us know in the comments which ones you agree with, disagree with. If you want, just put your whole list in the comments. I will look at them, and please like and subscribe. It's a new channel. The support really helps us. I'd really appreciate if you can drop any kind of support. Anyway, let's get started by saying that I've been to 16 of these grounds. This one doesn't matter as much if you've been to the grounds or not, but I do think it helps a little bit more when you have attended these. But let's just get straight into it, starting with rock bottom place, the worst ground in the Premier League. As you can tell by the little point that I just made there, I think Bournemouth have the worst stadium in the Premier League. It's such a small ground at 11,000 capacity, and it's not like Kenilworth Road were in the Premier League a few years ago with Luton, where it was tiny, but it really had a lot of character. It was something so unique about it. This is just a textbook League 2 football ground in the pyramid. They are improving it up to 20,000, I believe, before the season starts, as they are now a European side. And listen, everyone critiques Bournemouth for the size of their club, their stadium, etc. But at the end of the day, let's just pick a random big club who are down in the dumps at the minute. Sheffield Wednesday, they've got a much bigger, much better ground, a much bigger and much better club in terms of size and everything. But I tell you who I'd rather be supporting right now, it's Bournemouth, without a shadow of a doubt. So at the end of the day, doesn't matter about their stadium, it doesn't matter about their fans, all this and all that. They're doing so well, but Bournemouth are ranked bottom in my list. 19th, we have another one of the Bs. I've gone with Brentford. A new modern stadium, which is also still really small. I have been to this one. It just didn't feel like a Premier League ground, to be totally honest, and in a Premier League list, that is simply going to put you quite far down on the list. I do actually think that for being a modern stadium, it is a little bit unique. It isn't just a textbook bowl, but I do still think that it just has no character about it. It just feels like a meta ground for a small football club in London. It's also in between loads of flats and stuff. It's really awkward to get in and out. I really don't like the Brentford Stadium, and at the end of the day, again, it's not a Premier League ground, people. It's just not a Premier League ground. Sorry, it's not. Moving on to 18th place, I'm kind of following a bit of a trajectory here. We've gone with Brighton. This doesn't feel like a football stadium. I think that's my main takeaway from this. Again, a stadium I have been to. Obviously, it's not too small. I do think it's relatively unique, but I just do think it just doesn't really feel like a football stadium. It feels a lot like Huddersfield's ground. It's a bit similar to that, in my opinion, just from what I've gathered anyway. But I feel like it could be a rugby ground or something. I don't know. There's something about it that I just don't quite like. It's also in the middle of nowhere. There's one train station next to it, which really doesn't help. But the big positive for Brighton is outside they have a sort of fan zone, which has this massive telly, which has whatever early kickoffs on or late kickoff, whatever, which is absolutely brilliant. I'd love that as a Sunderland fan if we had something like that, which is definitely a positive for Brighton. But you've got to understand that I've got these teams low, and you might think I'm being harsh, this, that, and the other. The Premier League's actually full of just unreal football stadiums. It is. I mean, it's the best league in the world. And I think a lot of the big clubs are in the league this season. And I do think that has resulted in there being just a lot of good stadiums, which means teams like this have just got to go down to the bottom of the list by default, in my personal opinion. Moving on to 17th. This might be a little bit of a hot take. And I want to preface this by saying that I do, like, it's probably looking like I don't like this club. I threw a lot of digs at them before in the home atmosphere video, and now I've got the stadium quite low. I've got Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, and like I said, I've got nothing against this club. This is just my opinion. I think Selhurst Park is a little bit of a dump. I think it could probably create a good atmosphere when it gets going. I did not experience that, as I said, in my home atmosphere video. I really do like the location of it. It's just with it being in the middle of streets, it's so traditional, and I really appreciate that. But the ground itself, having so many restricted view seats, I don't know, it just doesn't really fill us with much compared to the other grounds in this list. Like I said, there's so many good stadiums in the Premier League now. The grounds like Selhurst Park, despite their history, despite being so traditional, have just got to go low down, and I apologise for that, but that is just the way it is, unfortunately. Moving up into 16th place, I've got Coventry, the first of the newly promoted sides in this list. It's just a really boring ground. I think there's nothing much to it. It's not really their stadium. They just got it because they had nowhere else to go, and they've now sort of took it as their own. They've made it home, and honestly, it gets a really good atmosphere going, which is why I've got it higher than a few of these in this list. I just really do think it can make a good atmosphere. I like the walk of the ground, but I think it's a bit boring. There's nothing really much to it, and it actually looks a little bit ugly. It could easily have been lower down. But Coventry, I've got in 16th position. Moving up into 15th, we've got the next of the newly promoted sides. I've gone with Hull. Again, this actually isn't really a football ground. It's also a rugby ground. I think it is. To be honest, it's a stadium I quite like. If I was doing like a championship ranking video last season, I think I would have this quite high up. But I just think going into the Premier League, I just don't think it quite cuts the mustard compared to most of the ones in this list. I think it's nothing better than it's just decent, it's good, it's fine. Nothing wrong with this. It's a stadium I will be going to for the first time this season. Nothing really bad to see about it, but not too much good to see about it, which is why it's down in 15th place. 14th, I've gone Fulham Craven Cottage. Now listen, there's a big thing with this stadium for me where this was genuinely one of my favourite grounds in the entire English football pyramid. I believe it's the oldest club in London. It's right on the river. It's so historic. We've actually got that little cottage in the corner, which I believe is like part of the sort of executive experience or whatever. I think it looks brilliant. It's in a great area as well. Everything, honestly, I talk about so many positives. But the new development for me, turning it into more of a modern ground, it's just ruined everything that was Craven Cottage in my personal opinion. And I've been before the development, I've now been after the development, and like I said, I much preferred it before, and I would have had it really high. I would have had it really, really high, and I just do think that the new increased capacity has really been a negative on the ground, and that's why I've got it this low. And honestly, I reluctantly have it this low, because like I said, I actually really used to love this ground. It would have been right up in the top 10 back in the day, but now with the new development, I just don't like it as much, which is why I've got it where 14th place. It's a shame. It's a great ground. I think it's been ruined ever so slightly. 13th, the final of the newly promoted sides I've got with Ipswich's Portman Road. This is a great stadium. I think it's just a bit better than Sellers Park. I think it's more of a stadium. I think, again, it's so historic, it's traditional, but I just do, again, this is a ground I haven't been to. I will be going on the first game of the season, but I can't put it much higher. Again, if this was a championship ranking video, it would be right up the top like it would have been last season. But in the Premier League, you're with the big boys now. You're not getting any higher than where 13th position. 12th, I've got the first big shock, the first proper big stadium that I've got quite low down for me, and that is the Etihad of Manchester City. Now, I really like Man City as a football club. I really do. I love the fans. I love everything about it. However, when I went to this ground, the atmosphere was quite poor, as I had in my previous video I told you. There wasn't a wow factor. With a lot of these big clubs, even if it is a soulless ball, which is a term that gets chucked around left, right and centre, which is a term I'm quite bored of, to be quite frank. But when it's these new stadiums that are so new, so grand, it has to have that, wow, I'm in a proper stadium here vibe going to it. And I just didn't feel that in the Etihad. I really didn't. I mean, it was a miserable day in the winter. I suppose that might go against it. But I've seen it on the telly. I've seen everything about it. It's a good stadium. Listen, it's 12th in the Premier League list. It's in the top 15, top 20 in the whole of the country. I think there's so many more positives to talk about than negatives, but I just do think the ground's above it in this list. Just have more that wow factor. I think that's the main thing that I'm taking away from the Etihad from my experience and what I say on the telly. 12th, I've got the Etihad, maybe a bit of a hot take there, but that is just where I have it. 11th, another massive ground that I've got here. Again, now, these grounds are all great. Even starting with Etihad, these grounds are brilliant. I'm not talking many negatives about these at all, but I just think there's better ones. It's that plain and simple. There's a pecking order here. It's a ranking list at the end of the day, people. 11th, I've gone with Anfield. I think one thing that actually has sort of hindered the Anfield experience is Everton not playing at Goodison anymore, because that walk through the park is just brilliant, having both grounds at either side. Now, Goodison's still there, and it's still staying for the women's football, I believe. And when we played Liverpool this season, we went to one of the local pubs at Goodison Park and did the walk through the park, and it was brilliant, looking at Anfield Tower over. But again, I think this is one that has heard from the development. It's something that has to happen. When I'm talking about development not helping the stadium, it's sounding like a massive negative, but it's just, I'm talking about aesthetic and appeal when I talk about that. It has to happen. These are massive football clubs. They have to increase the capacity due to demand, due to absolutely everything, increasing revenue, all that and everything. But when we're talking about ranking it and what I think about it, I just do think that it makes it worse on most occasions, and I think Anfield has suffered from that. But this is a great stadium, absolutely great stadium. It creates some great atmospheres on its day. It absolutely does. One of the stalwarts of English football, but I've got it 11th because I just do prefer the ones above it. 10th, I've gone with Arsenal. We've just went through 3 of the biggest stadiums in a row. Arsenal, brilliant stadium. Absolutely brilliant. I loved going there. I think it's mint when you pass the on going to King's Cross, you always pass it and it towers over. It's like, for being in London, it's so visible and everything. Honestly, I do think it's a really good stadium. I think it creates a great atmosphere. My only negative with the Emirates is that I think it feels a little bit far away from the pitch, only by like a metre or two. It just feels like you're a little bit further away from the pitch than I like when I'm talking about what I like in a stadium, and I think that's the only thing that has it sort of keeping it away from the upper positions in this ranking. But I think Arsenal's Emirates Stadium is absolutely fantastic, a great modern ground. Moving up into ninth, I've gone with Everton. Now, this is the newest stadium in the Premier League, have been, and I really enjoyed it. For being a modern stadium, you expect it to be a bit bland, a bit boring, and it just wasn't. And when you drive around Liverpool, going to Anfield, going to wherever and that, you can see it towering over everything. Like, you see it so often. It feels like it's on a pedestal above so many buildings in the city, and it just looks brilliant. Its location is fantastic. The walls surrounding it, which is historic, obviously, to the dock. I just think it's really good, and for being a modern stadium, I can't really bring out too many negatives. I think it would be a lot higher if they'd been here for longer and they'd made it home, but they haven't yet, and I think it will probably work its way up the list as Everton get more comfortable there. But for being a modern stadium, I really enjoyed my experience at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Moving up to 8th, I've gone with Nottingham Forest. This is a proper, traditional, historic football stadium right on the River Trent. Honestly, there's not much to say about this other than it is just a great footy ground. This is a proper football stadium, and I really enjoyed going. And I don't really have many negatives for it. Obviously, it could be a lot bigger, and that is really the only negative you can pluck from this one. But again, when you increase the stadium, you run the risk of making it worse. So keep it as the way it is, Nottingham Forest. It's a brilliant stadium. 7th, Ellen Road, another historic, brilliant ground that creates some fantastic atmospheres. It looks fine. It looks good. Again, I'm struggling to come up with negatives in this one. I'd say it's similar to the negative of Nottingham Forest. It needs to be bigger. Leeds, I believe, are the biggest one-club city in all of Europe, and the rave on about how they've got a waiting list of 1 million people. Prove it. Make it bigger, but also keep everything about it, and it might become one of the best in the country. It probably already is where it is. I've got it 7th in the list. This is a great stadium, just not as good as the ones above it. Let's move on into 6th place, where I have Chelsea. This is one of my favourite grounds of the Big Six, because I just don't feel like it's this commercial ball that all the Big Six teams seem to strive for. They've kept their roots, and I love it. It's so historic. It's proper. I love it. It should be bigger. Yes, it definitely should be bigger. But would I be rushing to build a new stadium when you've got a great ground like Stamford Bridge? I wouldn't. Everything about the atmosphere, the smacking on the walls when they score, which they have nicked from Sunderland, by the way. I will not let you have that. I love this ground, loved going, love its location, love everything. Chelsea is also a beautiful area, potentially the nicest area I have been in the whole country. Moving up into 5th, this is where I've got Sunderland. I'm not putting us first this time, as Melody might think it's biased as having this high. We have a great ground, an absolutely great ground. This is a modern stadium, but it's not brand new. I believe it was 97 when it propped up. It's great. Honestly, it was a bowl when it first got built, and then when we extended it to the 49,000 capacity and added that sort of concourse area, I think that added to the stadium, because like I said, it was a bowl before. I think this is one of them developments which helped the stadium, and if we do increase it to 60,000, which is definitely part of the plans, especially with our trajectory getting into Europe and stuff, I think that could maybe make it a little bit worse, as then again it becomes a symmetrical stadium, which I don't really like too much, so we'll have to see what happens with that. I think the main negatives of this is just the away end being so high up, but I think the location and everything about the stadium, like the atmosphere it brings, it's brilliant. It's my home. I might have added up an extra 2 or 3 places than it should have been. If you think that, let us know. But having a 5th place, I think, is totally justifiable. 4th, reluctantly, I've got St James's Park above us, and I don't think aesthetically it looks any better. I think it actually looks uglier, but the main things that St James's Park has over a lot of the stadiums is its location's brilliant. It's right in the heart of Newcastle city centre, and when you're on that top level of the nosebleed seats, the away ends, you can look onto the city, and that is such a positive. That is something you only get in a very select few amount of grounds in the world, really, and I think that is the main positive. And listen, I'm talking positively about Newcastle here, so clip it up, laugh it up. I won't be doing this very often, I absolutely promise you that, but I really do think that is just purely a positive for the Newcastle Stadium. Like I said, I think aesthetically it looks, honestly, it looks a little bit ugly with how it's like flat and then it's like a massive stand. I don't like the look of that, but I think, like I said, the location, everything, I do think, and obviously the atmosphere is good. I have got to have it really high, and that's why I've got a 4th in me ranking. Moving up to 3rd, I think this will be a lot of people's number 1 pick, but for me, I've got Manchester United's Old Trafford. I think the main negatives with this one is that it is falling apart. I think a few years ago, this is without a doubt probably the best stadium in the country. I think when you go there, you feel like you're going to the biggest club in English football. I assume it does create a good atmosphere. I had it really low down on my atmosphere ranking from what I experienced, which I thought was a really, really poor atmosphere. But I'm not going to count that too much against the stadium. The walk through it, being surrounded by houses, it's so historic, it's so powerful. The wow factor that I said weren't there with Man City is so here, but this is a historic ground, and they're obviously talking about moving, and I think that really would be a disappointing thing for English football. I think you're much better off regenerating it, keeping its roots, keeping its traditionality, keeping its history, but also making it modern and not just having it basically falling apart, leaking from the ceiling and all that. Old Trafford is fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. Second, this was my number one pick a few years ago until a new certain stadium was built, which I assume you can guess. Villa Park. Had the privilege of going here last season in a brilliant game of football, and again, I actually have zero negatives about this stadium. I think the layout of the stands creates a great atmosphere. I think the away ends maybe could be a little bit better. I don't like being on a corner, but again, it doesn't really matter too much. I think them steps up to the Villa Park sign is brilliant. The park around it, that was honestly, it's a bit regal. Honestly, the gates and stuff. I just love this ground. I absolutely love this ground. This is traditional, but it feels modern enough. It has everything. Villa Park is beautiful. One of the best grounds in the entirety of the country. But unfortunately, it just does not get the number one spot, because I think the best stadium in all of English football is a brand new stadium, and it's the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It just is. I think people can come at it, oh, it looks like a spaceship, it's so modern. No, just stop rejecting modernity all the time, people, and just ditch the nostalgia for once. This thing is an absolute thing of beauty. For being such a brand new stadium, so big, it feels like it's been there years. The massive stand, the massive cop end thing they've got going on is brilliant, with the Tottenham cockerel on the top. Honestly, I absolutely love this ground so much. The concourse is brilliant. It's like I said, well, I mean, it's meant to host sort of concerts and stuff, but it just does both perfectly. It hosts the NFL. It's just the perfect, and I mean perfect literally. This is a perfect modern football stadium, and I don't think I need to explain myself anymore. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is number one, and that is my 20-1 ranking of the stadiums in the Premier League. Please let us know what you disagree with. Feel free to put your entire list in the comments. I promise I'll read the whole thing and let you know what I agree with and disagree with. And again, this is a brand new channel. I would really appreciate some support. Just if you've gotten this far, subscribe. You must think it's decent enough video, and if you've dealt with this for this long, drop a like, drop a comment, that and the other. I would really, really appreciate that. Let us know anything, video ideas, whatever. And if you've gotten this far, what can you comment? Comment 73 for where this top's from. Comment 73. I appreciate everyone who watches these videos. Thanks for watching. See you later.